Hello, everyone. I'm your host, Michael Alvarez, and welcome to Season 4 of Titan Alumni Talks, a weekly podcast where we talk to alumni about their experiences at Cal State Fullerton. For this week's episode, we have Randy Horner, who is a lieutenant colonel in the United States Marine Corps. He graduated in 1997 with a bachelor's in criminal justice. Listen as we talk about the impact of his job, lessons on leadership, and advice to current students looking for a career in the military and after graduation. You can catch these episodes live at 11 a.m. on Tuesdays at titanradio.org, or you can watch all past episodes on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/CSUF alumni. Let's go into a little bit about yourself and how you got into the Marine Corps and your route as an officer.
No, born and raised here, Southern California. Started out at San Diego State and finished up at Cal State Fullerton when I graduated in '97. And my route on the officer side to the Marine Corps was a little unconventional, I guess you'd say. So, there's different programs, as you know, going through ROTC and how to get into military service. 90s was a little bit different as the military was kind of shrinking after Desert Storm.
Right.
So I waited until I graduated from Cal State Fullerton before I applied, which was the hardest way to get into the officer program. So I ended up enlisting for a year. And during that first year of my enlistment, I was accepted into officer candidate school and then was commissioned in 1998. So it was kind of an unconventional path, kind of a path I wouldn't have chose for myself if probably would have prepared better when I was younger. But it actually worked out in my benefit over my entire career.
That's interesting. I mean, it's interesting to know all the different paths that people take to get into the military, especially the officer route. I don't think a lot of people are familiar with even OCS, ROTC.
Right.
The only reason why I say that is because I'm what's called the cadet recruiter at my battalion. And a lot of times we have students that are asking like, hey, so is this OCS? What is ROTC? It's just interesting because I think a lot of when people think of the military, they don't especially as students, they don't necessarily think of becoming an officer and they don't really know what leadership means in that terms. They think military, cut and dry, enlisted, infantry, I feel like is what the common mindset is. Because as you know, sir, there's a ton of jobs in the Marine Corps and I mean, just in the military in general.
Yeah, absolutely. And ironically, after graduating in 97 and 2003, when I got back from, Operation Iraqi Freedom, I was the officer recruiter for Hawaii and Orange County for 3 years. Nice. So I spent many days on Cal State Fullerton, Cal State Long Beach, UCI, University of Hawaii, talking about the different Marine officer programs and the other officer programs for the other services too. So what I thought I knew going into it was completely different than when I actually started recruiting and, like you said, kind of exploring all those different options and opportunities for people and then having to convey that to college students and who had sometimes no idea how to get into the program. Because like you said, hey, I know how to enlist in the Marine Corps out of high school, but the officer program is a completely different route.
Absolutely. And touching on recruiting and in the recruiting world nowadays, just because I'm around it all the time during COVID and with the stay-at-home order and everybody kind of having that fear of just getting sick, rightfully so. I think it's affected recruiting tremendously, especially for the Army. I can't speak on behalf of the Marine Corps, but I mean, how do you feel COVID has affected the military in general? I mean, I know that's kind of it's a big question because I know there could be a lot of different answers, but in your opinion, how do you think COVID?
Well, I think, the Marine Corps always says, it's mission first, people always. COVID definitely put the challenge on, how do you protect the troops to be healthy? The Marines be healthy. You put them on a ship, you get 200 people sick. I think in the beginning, people were kind of fearful that it was going to be a lot more dangerous and deadly than it actually was. Mm-hmm. So people put a lot of protocols into being, healthy, clean, sanitary, but when you put 200, 500, 1,000 guys in close proximity on a ship or in a berthing area, in a barracks, you're going to have that close contact. So I think there were a lot of unknowns, and there was definitely a lot of probably friction and a learning curve that everybody went through. But, the job I had up till the last summer was dealing with recruits for the last 3 years. And, recruiting kept going on. Shipment of basic recruits down to Paris Island, San Diego, it continued. There were a lot of other protocols put in place, but, the mission continued. And with people first, it's we found a way to keep people healthy and continue on with the mission, because otherwise, everybody counts on the military to continue its mission and be able to deploy and be ready anytime, as you know.
Right.
So I think, I don't want to say everybody's over it, but I think everybody knows how to handle it a lot better than they did before.
Right. No, that's definitely a good point. And what comes out from this, and the lesson that I feel like the military has learned is not learned, but they've kind of retouched this lesson, but like adaptive leadership is what kind of comes to mind. And in ROTC and in the Army, we're always talking about how we can be better leaders, and especially nowadays with a global pandemic. And so we're still trying to meet our mission, and our cadre is still trying to build the best lieutenants that they can during this time. But with that being said, in your experience in the military, in the Marine Corps, what are the best lessons in leadership that you can offer?
It kind of comes back to a little bit of what you said about, COVID and adaptive learning and adaptive leadership. But, you can't let fear guide your decision making. Mm-hmm. You can't let the fear of doing the wrong thing or getting hurt lead your decision making, because then you become risk adverse. And instead of focusing on the mission, you're focusing on the wrong things. So I think COVID has kind of taught that lesson to a lot of people really well, because, you still have to continue on. You still got to do the mission. You still have to do all those requirements. And that's very much true in the face of adversity, in the face of combat. You got to press on. And sometimes that means putting the mission ahead of your own public or personal safety. And the other, great thing about leadership they're talking about, really, it's listening and trust. You got to listen to the Marines that work for you. You got to listen to the Marines that you work for, and you got to build trust within them, because you ultimately, as a leader, you're not going to know every single thing going on, but you're also not going to understand or know everything you're supposed to do or what your guys are doing. So you got to trust that you're all kind of working toward the same goal, that they're going to do their portion or their part while you're doing your part, and successfully you'll all reach to that same place together. It takes a lot of time, a lot of practice. Some people are very controlling, like to micromanage, and that is not what a leader is at all.
Right. Now that's all good points there, sir. So if we can go back to your experience at Cal State Fullerton. So why did you choose Cal State Fullerton and in the major? And what did you major in?
Yeah, so like I said, I started out at San Diego State, did a couple of years down there. Just wanted to move back to the local area up here in Huntington Beach, Fountain Valley, where I grew up. I think just the experience down there, and then coming back up here, you just, as a young 20-year-old, 19-year-old, you're trying to figure out your way in life and what you want to do and where you want to go. Mm-hmm. I want to say I chose Cal State Fullerton. Sometimes it kind of chose me when you put a bunch of applications out there, and it was kind of Long Beach or Cal State Fullerton, and I chose Cal State Fullerton. I went in as a criminal justice major, right, and which is overly impacted, which I didn't know about. And the fact that I got in and didn't really have to worry about fighting for a major, which a lot of other students had to, because everything was impacted. I think I go back to my exploratory days at San Diego State. I think I changed my major every semester because I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. But by the time I got back up here in, must have been 1995 is the year I started at Cal State Fullerton. I knew I wanted to be a criminal justice major. It just seemed to be the only tangible major that, was service to the community. I thought about being a police officer, doing something else, but it was real life stuff too. And I can't stand biology. I didn't like looking at a microscope. I didn't like thinking about things I couldn't put my hand on. So criminal justice seemed like a natural fit. The classes were entertaining, interesting, and decided to do summer and winter program and just do 2 more years at Cal State Fullerton and ended up graduating in 97.
Nice. I have actually my bachelor's in criminal justice right now. And I think the hardest class that I took was research. I think that was one of the hardest classes that we had to take.
Yeah, statistics. Don't put me in front of statistics. I mean, I can do math all day long, but I didn't do very well at statistics. I'll tell you that right now at Cal State Fullerton.
Yeah, I was originally a business major, just because when I think of Cal State Fullerton, I think, oh wow, they have a great business program. I want to see what that's all about. Took a micro econ class, and I'm not too big of a math fan, so changed my major real fast.
Yeah, I think I did architecture for a while. I think I did a little bit of everything, and just kind of, you kind of do the long game. I'm always thinking about the future, and you're like, what the hell am I going to do with this major? And you realize that's probably not going to pay the bills.
Right.
And, yeah, it just seemed criminal justice just seemed like a natural fit around here. And I had a lot of friends in law enforcement at the time when I was going to college, and that always kind of interests me.
Right.
But when I graduated, I was kind of like, I was 23 years old. I didn't really want to drive around in a police car and tell people what to do. I figured I haven't really done enough yet to be an adult or be, want to go do something different. That's kind of what led me towards the Marine Corps for a while. Yeah, so this was supposed to be a temporary thing or a short-term thing, and then it turned out to be a career. I just had a great time and kept getting great jobs after great jobs, and next thing you know, it's been 23 years.
So do you have family in the Marine Corps? Was there a specific reason why you chose the Marine Corps over any other branch?
Well, my father was a Marine in Vietnam. He's an officer back then. My uncle was a Marine, enlisted an officer as a pilot. And just the Marine Corps always fascinated me. And they never said do this or do that. Never really even talked about their experiences. But I think that's where the difference between the services are. Nobody really joins to be a sailor or join to be a soldier, but people join to be a Marine. Right. And I think I've just always kind of felt like that as a young kid, and that's where it took me. And I figured when I graduated college, I was like, might as well give it an opportunity. And if I don't like it, I'm still a young guy, and I could go find another job or find other career paths. But it was kind of in my mind, that was the only option. I wasn't going to join any other branches, not because there's anything wrong with them. It just wasn't for me. And I wanted the challenge of being a Marine.
I have a lot of family members in the military, but my brother, he was in the Marine Corps from 2000 to 2011. And the look on his face when I told him, I'm like, hey, I'm going to join the Army. And he's like, oh, okay. And I'm gonna be an MP. And he's like, okay. Oh, and I'm gonna join the Guard too. And just the look on his face, he's like, okay, all right, well, I guess we'll work on it,
So, well, the Marine Corps is the smallest branch, but the Air Force, the Army, the Navy, they still people love their job, they love what they do, and they meet their recruiting goals. It's just everybody finds their own path, I think.
Definitely. So in the Marine Corps, I know throughout being an officer, there's several different duty positions that you can have. In the Marine Corps, I'm not sure if it's the same for the Marine Corps, but as officers, what was your MOS or branch, and what kind of different duty positions did you hold?
Oh, wow. So I came in as an officer. I'm an artillery officer by trade. So coming out of the basic school where every Marine's taught how to be a basic rifle platoon commander or infantry officer. And then you go off to Fort Sill, Oklahoma for 6 months and learn how to be an artillery officer with the Army. And then came back and did my first 4 years in North Carolina and a couple deployments there. And then the Marine Corps is very big on you go do a job and then you switch jobs about every 3 years. And we call it a B-billet, a job away from your primary job. That's when I went on recruiting duty. So after 3 years or 4 years as an artillery officer, I went and did 3 years of recruiting. And then after recruiting, I went back to being an artillery officer again, where I was a battery commander for Mike 108 howitzer for transition to the HIMARS launcher during that time. I was also a battalion XO for artillery battalion, 5th Battalion, 11th Marines. And after that time, and during that tour, I did 7 months in Ramadi as an advisor to an Iraqi battalion during Operation Iraqi Freedom. And that advisor experience kind of put me on a path. After that tour, I went out to 29 Palms, where I was the training officer for the advisor training group. So now I was out of the artillery community again, but I was training all the future advisors going to Iraq and Afghanistan. And kind of the Marine Corps, like, that's kind of how my career has gone. It's ping pong between an artillery or fire support job to some other completely different job. And so I had experience. I lived in Australia for 3 years as an exchange officer working for the Australian Army, living in Melbourne, which was, not even doing artillery, it was experimentation, which was fantastic. I did 2 years at Special Operations Command in Tampa, which had nothing to do with artillery. I was an operations officer for Anglico, or Air Naval Gunfire Liaison Company, which is a fire support artillery billet. So my career's gone all over the place, and just recently spent 3 years on Edson Range, where we train recruits on how to live in the field, shoot their rifle, all those basic skills. And now I'm down in Coronado as the division head for expeditionary fires, where we do naval gunfire, fire support training for battalions and regiments, and also for the Marine Expeditionary Unit. So my career, I've seen a lot of different jobs that have which keeps it interesting and keeps it fun. And like I use the word fun a lot. As a 47-year-old, you want to have fun in your job, and that's what's kept me around for the last 23 years. Fun and the people.
Absolutely, the fun in people is. I feel like the longer you're in, a lot of people find the reasons why as to why they're there, and there's always the two things I always hear is fun and people. So
there's definitely hardship, but it's but the fun and the people make it worth it. It's that's what keeps you around, the camaraderie.
So with all the different jobs that you had and your experiences in the military, and you as a lieutenant colonel, what's your next step? Do you plan on retiring soon? Oh, I believe you're actually retiring this year, sir.
I am. So I was supposed to retire last year and extended a year. I retire September 1st of this year, and I'm actually, my last day in uniform will probably be April 30th, where I kind of transitioned and looking for a fellowship right now with a private company. So I'm still going the interview process for that. And then, hopefully I'll stay here in Orange County and interview with companies, which I've already started doing, and eventually find my way to an adult job and get back to the real world. As I joke with people, the last job I had before the Marine Corps, I was selling golf clubs at Roger Dunn. So
Nice.
It's been a little while, but leading Marines, managing budgets, managing chaos, making decisions, those skills are universal. And I think my experience in education will, I can benefit anybody. So I'm open to a new opportunity, and actually looking forward to it a lot.
That's great. Congratulations on the soon retirement and moving on to the next chapter in your life. You mentioned Roger Dunn in golf. So a little background history myself. I played for Cal State Fullerton on the golf team there. Played golf my entire life. So I can't imagine. I'm sure, and I know for a fact that you played some pretty nice golf courses around the world on military bases. Do you have a favorite one, a favorite golf course, or even a country club local that you like playing at?
It's McDill is pretty good in Tampa. I mean, you can't beat the weather down there sometimes. The thing I don't like about golf anymore is the price is definitely different than it was in 1997. It's no longer $20 at Costa Mesa, which is kind of disappointing.
Yeah.
It's funny, the destroyer course up there in Los Alamitos that's always fun. That's a great course here in Orange County. But lately it seems like we've been playing a lot down here in San Clemente. I'm trying to think worldwide. I mean, I did many trips over to England. We used to go play there all the time on different links courses.
Nice.
But you'll find, most Marines, wherever they go, they try to bring their golf clubs with them if they can, especially if it's just a week trip somewhere. But yeah, England was a good time.
I was actually just at Los Alamitos a few hours ago. We had a training event there with RTC, and we were rucking. We only went on like a 4-mile ruck, 60 pounds. And the whole time I was just looking at the golf courses on the other side of the fence and kind of reminiscing, like, man, if I would much rather be playing golf right now than rucking. But
is that reminiscing or second guessing?
Well, definitely reminiscing. I'm not second guessing my choices just because how close I am to commissioning.
Yep.
But okay, so with that being said, assuming I do everything right, don't get in trouble, pass my classes. I will commission in May, on the 21st, I believe.
Okay.
And coming in as a brand new lieutenant with very little prior service time, I always like to pick the brains of NCO, senior NCOs, and field grade officers. So, what advice do you have for brand new lieutenants coming into a platoon or even to Bullock, for example?
Yeah, great question. I mean, just be patient and listen. Like you hear people say, God gave you 2 ears and one mouth for a reason. You should be listening twice as much as you're talking. Right. Especially as a brand new lieutenant, nobody expects you to know everything. You rely on your staff NCOs to hopefully be honest with you and build trust with them, because they are the technical experts. And just be patient. Don't expect to jump in there and know everything and be able to make all the best decisions. I did early in my career, and I still do it, but I try to get the input from my guys, show them the respect that they've earned, that they are the professionals, they are the experts at what they're doing. And that way you take in all their information, let them know that their voice is important, their opinion is important, and their experience, matters to you. That way you can be informed and make the best decision. And I think that's true across any rank. A lot of lieutenants like to go in there and be like, I'm in charge because I got these bars on my shoulder, but you're not in charge. You're going to be responsible for everything.
Right.
But sometimes those guys in charge, that's your boss. That's those senior enlisted leaders who are kind of showing you the ropes until you've been, I don't want to say groomed, but put a little experience under your belt. But it also gives you that time to make mistakes and build that trust where you're like, maybe this guy's not exactly being honest with me, or maybe this is not the way it's supposed to be. In the military, in a lot of ways, as much as people say it's very rigid, there's a lot of things that this is how it has to be done. Military still likes innovation, be creative. Like I've always been you got to ask the question why. And younger soldiers, Marines, military guys, they were growing up with the why. Why are we doing this? I think maybe 30, 40, 50 years ago, people just, immediate obedience to orders is what we used to hear. Now it's, you got to explain the why. If you can explain the why to your soldiers and your Marines, they have buy-in, they're going to execute. And it makes it a hell of a lot easier when they want to execute the mission because they understand it, rather than just blindly telling them, hey, do this just because I said so. That will never work as a leader. You can be a bully and a dictator if you want, but that'll never make you a leader.
I think that's that. A lot of the advice I received, and our primary military instructor, he's a lieutenant colonel as well. He's actually a field artillery officer. He always would teach us that in order to build trust with your soldiers, you have to be able to communicate with them, and you have to be able to understand where they're coming from. But then when it's time to take, to lead and take charge, that we have to build trust, and we have to be able to trust our senior NCOs and not be afraid to make mistakes. So this is some of the lessons in leadership that I like always kind of remind myself, especially as a future young lieutenant, just because I feel like these lessons in leadership, they're never going to change, whether I'm a lieutenant or the eventual lieutenant colonel, because I would imagine that sometimes maybe you have to even remind yourself of, hey, this Marine is, maybe I need to, counsel this Marine on resiliency rather than yelling and giving him a hard time, so on and so forth. Just some examples. But I think leadership and knowing how to handle stress is something that students nowadays, I would feel like are kind of missing.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things you got to do, and it's hard for most leaders, officer types, they're going to be that A-type personality, aggressive mentality. They're going to want to get in there and do everything. And sometimes what you have to do is you got to let your guys make a decision, even if it's the wrong decision sometimes, as long as it's not immoral going to get somebody hurt or somebody killed or illegal. Sometimes you got to let your guys fail to learn. And you might know it's going to fail. You might know it's going to be the harder way, but you got to let them kind of figure it out sometimes. And that's how you learn a lot of times. It's how many times in order for an innovation, for something to work, how many other things failed in order to make that a reality. That new system. And I think as a leader, that's hard sometimes, because you want to groom your guys that, hey, you want them to make some decisions on their own. You don't want them to come to you all the time and say, can I do this? Or how do I do this? Because, leadership is allowing your guys to operate within that space you give them and not micromanage or control. Because as a young leader, you're going to have soldiers or Marines, whoever, you want them to execute without you over their shoulder. And so you can let them fail sometimes and let them make their own decisions. And sometimes you might think it's going to fail, or you might not think it's the way you want to do it. And then you learn, because you're like, oh, damn, they were right. Or I let them do it. I would have never thought about that. And, you learn from it also. So you got to give your guys that time and space. And that's what I was saying. You got to be patient. Don't try to do everything. Don't try to make every decision. Give your guys a space to, as you lead them, to kind of run. And trust me, they'll appreciate you for it, because they don't want to be micromanaged. They don't want to be controlled, especially those young NCOs where they got a little bit of rank under them now. They won't want to be in charge. Everybody wants the lieutenant or the captain to tell them everything they're supposed to do and how to do it. That just stifles any unit you're ever going to be in.
So speaking of failure and being patient, I know that there's students right now listening to this podcast that may be struggling right now with their academic situation. They may not know what major to pick, or they're even questioning whether they should stay in school because of COVID, because they need to work. What advice do you have for those students that are currently at Cal State Fullerton?
It's the easiest question, because I can go back to my own example. So 1993, after 1 year of college, San Diego State, 36,000 commuters. I felt like a lost soul down there. Didn't know what I wanted to do. And I came home and I told my old man, I was like, hey, Dad, I think I'm going to join the Marine Corps. Or college's not for me. I don't want to do this. And I think it was because I was putting a lot of stress on myself also for what I wanted to do in the future. What do you want to do when you graduate? And my dad gave me the best advice in the world, which was, one, if you drop out of college, you'll never go back. I think the amount of people who actually go back is probably very small, because once you leave college, you get a job, you start making money, you have bills, responsibility, maybe a family. You just don't have the time or the money to go back. But also, the other piece of that advice was just take one semester at a time. If you take one semester at a time and you achieve those goals for that semester, eventually in 3, 4, 5 years, whatever it takes you, you'll have figured out that path to graduate. So don't look at it as a holistic requirement that, hey, I got to know every answer to the next 4 years. Just take it one semester at a time and keep plugging away. And if you do it that way, you'll turn around and be like, 3 years went by in a heartbeat, but now you're graduated, now you're done, and you can move on. And I know a lot of people will say college degrees don't mean as much as they used to, but I'd rather have it and not need it than, need it and not have it. So I think once people get into college, they started for a reason. You just got to plug away. But that also shows commitment to something also. And that's usually what employers are looking for. You went to college, you started, and you finished something. You didn't quit.
Okay. Yeah, that's all great stuff. So what guidance do you have for somebody that's in college right now, that's contemplating joining the military, doesn't know if being an officer is for them or even being enlisted is for them? What guidance would you give a recruit right now that's in that situation?
Give me a call. I'll talk them through it. But what I would say is explore all opportunities. I had this conversation 1,000 times when I was an officer recruiter at Cal State Fullerton, because I had all of Orange County, part of LA, and Hawaii, different people from different vast backgrounds. You got to explore all opportunities. And there are ways to get into the officer program with no commitment to being in the service. Right. I know ROTC and other programs, there's a commitment with, financial commitment, a commitment in the summers. The Marine Corps offers programs like the Platoon Leaders Course program where, if you don't like it, you did the 6-week summer, you can walk away. You don't own the Marine Corps or anything. There are a lot of opportunities out there. And I used to tell guys, you can give me 6 weeks in the summer, go back to college and do your thing. I'm not going to bother you, and go figure out what you want to do. And because just like I was saying earlier about college, taking one semester at a time, The officer program is kind of the same way. Some of the programs are set up. Just do a little bit to stay in the program and do what you got to do. Because in the end, after you graduate, you're going to have to make that decision. You know, do you take that commission and go be a Marine officer or, you know, an Army officer, or do you go find another path? So I would just tell people, be patient. You don't have to make every decision right now, but you can make decisions that put you on that right path. And if you talk to a right recruiter, if it doesn't sound right, talk to another recruiter. You know, talk to multiple people. There's all kinds of information out there on the internet, but you don't have to make a huge life decision right now.
Right.
And I think that's what used to scare a lot of the college guys was, you know, am I making this decision for the rest of my life right now? And I'd be like, no, there are ways to look into the program that has zero commitment, or not zero commitment. There's no requirement at the end that you have to be take your commission and be a Marine officer. There's different paths. And I'm sure the Army has similar programs as the Navy and the Air Force. And it's actually preferred. The Platoon Leaders Course program at the Marine Corps puts out there is actually very popular and preferred over some of the other programs.
Right. I wish in hindsight, I wish I sought out more information when I was actually, I almost went to OCS for the Marine Corps. I walked into the Santa Ana recruiting OCS building.
Yeah, it's the temporary one now that they have over there. Correct. Yep.
They showed me videos, and we went through the whole 9 yards. And basically told me, hey, if you want to be here, we're going to help you, so on and so forth. But for some reason, I just felt like I needed to know all of my options. So that's great advice. Just being patient and really just doing your research. I think that's really important. I mean, now I ended up taking the Army route, but for my situation, and I think it worked out just fine. So that's
yeah. And everybody's got a unique story, unique experience, and that's why sometimes if you get the feeling that you're only joining the military because the recruiter's pushing you a certain way, you're probably talking to the wrong recruiter.
Right.
Especially guys who are in school trying to do those officer programs. You know, you don't want somebody that the military saying, hey, I need this guy. You know, the Marine Corps always looks at it like, hey, we want you to be a Marine. We want you to come into our service. We don't need you. We want the guy that wants to be here, because
right.
You're going to find hardship with that commitment, but you're also going to find camaraderie, a sense of purpose. And, you know, I've had a completely positive experience. I've had some tough days, tough deployments, but the overall experience has been, you know, I would never change it for a million years. And there are, like I said earlier, there are programs that while you're still in college to explore that don't put you on a path where you have to do so. You have to do it at the end of your college experience. If I would have known about some of the programs, because I waited till the end before I made my decision, it would have been a lot easier getting in. Waiting till after you graduate is probably the hardest way to do it.
Right. So some of these questions they're interesting to me. So first thing is coffee versus tea.
Neither.
All right. So which is better, undergrad or graduate?
Graduate. That's where you're supposed to have fun and make mistakes, right?
All right. City versus the woods.
20 years ago, I would have said city. Now I'm a woods person.
Phone call or text?
Text.
Waffles or pancakes?
Pancakes.
Online shopping or shopping in a store?
Online shopping.
Winter or summer?
Summer, for sure.
Okay, so in regards to the Marine Corps uniform, rolled up sleeves or sleeves down?
Rolled up, yeah, show the guns, right? So it's just something iconic about sleeves up.
Yeah.
The other services look the same, sleeves down, so you might as well roll them.
Why should somebody that's majoring in criminal justice right now stay in criminal justice?
Why not? I mean, I think that's the better question. You know, I mean, like I said, there's so many options out there. I think that sometimes when you get an inkling of, hey, maybe I'll try this, there's usually a reason. There's probably a genuine interest there. You know, I will say that I think the difference between Cal State Long Beach and Cal State Fullerton, I know one's a BS, one's a BA. Cal State Fullerton, it used to be I think mine's a BA in criminal justice. It was more of the theory behind it, more of the personal side about it. And I think Cal State Long Beach was more of the structure side. You know, to me, it was just fascinating. You know, in its service, just like the military service to your nation. criminal justice was kind of like service to your community, service to your state, service to, it doesn't mean you have to be a police officer. There's a million different things you can do with it, but you're probably a person that finds interest in things that are happening right now. You want to answer those questions or go find solutions to problems where you see the tangible results. You're not looking at counting beans or working at, I don't know, managing, TPS report somewhere. It's, you're looking for a hands-on interactive experience. I think that's what criminal justice provides everybody. And plus it changes all the time, depending on, the environment. It's not like a manufacturing plant changes because of technology, but criminal justice changes because of values change, morals change, laws change, people change in society. And I think that criminal justice provides an opportunity to have an impact on all those things. And you see a lot in the news these days in the last couple of years over, criminal justice reform. And that's really society reform, and criminal justice is a reflection of society. So to me, that's fascinating and interesting.
Yeah, I remember when I was in my undergrad, a lot of it was based on what was going on in society. And a lot of the issues that was going on that we studied, and we wrote, a plethora of papers on it. It was really interesting. I enjoyed my time as a criminal justice major, and having that degree now, I'm very prideful of it, just because I know that the amount of work that had to go into just getting that degree. So going into success, now I know being in the Marine Corps, being an officer, what does success mean to you?
That's a great question, because it goes back to success to me. It's a personal fulfillment. I think is what success is. Everybody's gonna judge success differently. Some people are gonna think it's a monetary thing. You got so much money in the bank, or you clear so much money a year, you travel this much, or you're in charge of this many people. So people, I think, define success differently. For me, success it's a personal thing. I find success at work when I take care of the Marines and sailors that work for me. When I know that they can do their job well, and they're rewarded for it, and they're happy, or their morale is good. To me, that's success. That means as a leader, I'm doing the right things and they're doing the right things. To me, that's success. It's that personal satisfaction you get from the job, and that's how I've been measured, or I've measured my success over the years. Did I contribute to where I was? Did I make the place better when I left? And usually, you can kind of tell your impact on an organization by, do the people actually talk to you once you leave? Because if you never hear from anybody ever again, you probably were the guy that needed to go. So to me, that's how I measure success.
Mm-hmm.
I drove by the other day. I noticed there's a parking garage now where it used to be flat parking, so you had to show up 2 hours before class. What I would change, I probably would have got more involved personally with people at Cal State Fullerton. I don't think I have one friend that I met at Cal State Fullerton that I still talk to, just because I think as a commuter school, all the Cal State schools are so big, most people go back to their hometown, and that's who you live with, that's who you are. I didn't spend a lot of time on campus with clubs at all. I would have changed that and had that more personal experience, because I also think that's a very West Coast thing. Friends that come from smaller universities and on the East Coast and the South especially, I think there's more of a commitment to school and what you do, and making more friends probably on campus. I was the exact opposite. I went on campus like it was a job, went to school, went to class, and then I went back to Huntington Beach and went to work and hung out with my friends. Probably the best day at Cal State Fullerton ever was standing in line and seeing a flyer, and not knowing that one of my favorite bands of all time, Jawbreaker, was playing right there in the quad area, like 1996. And that was probably one of the best days, because nobody's really ever heard of that band. Maybe they'll Google it right now, and I think they broke up right afterwards. But that was probably the best day, because it was completely unexpected. And then obviously graduation, because my mother never thought I was going to graduate. And walking across, sometimes I still have to remind myself I actually finished. But yeah, it was a lot of great times. I've walked on campus a few times, and like I said, when I was doing recruiting, I was there all the time. it's definitely changed a lot. And I think grown a lot, the school and the campus, and um, I I feel glad for everybody that goes there now. There's a parking garage, what used to not be a parking garage, because God, parking was terrible.
It's funny you mention all these things because I can relate with every single thing you said because I've been at Cal State Fullerton now that I'm starting my graduate at 6 years now is I've been on the university and
Wow.
I've seen going through my bachelor's degree when it was all in person, so pre-COVID, and I wasn't very involved. I was on the golf team, but it was just practice, school, meetings, practice, and just rinse, repeat, recycle, and then go home because you're just so tired. And so definitely for the students listening out there, is getting involved is important, even if it is on Zoom, and just having the conversation with human interaction. I feel is what people need more nowadays.
Well, what you don't realize that's going to pay off, especially in your major, is and I was probably either too immature or I didn't have really a lot of people to talk to about it. But what you get out of there is a network of people, and it's all networking. You're not going to find a job on a job board. You're not going to find a job, especially later on in life, through a want ad. I mean, if you don't even know what that is these days, it's all networking. It's who you know, where you know it, and you develop that professional networking. LinkedIn has kind of become the Facebook of professionals, I guess. But networking is everything, and you're going to run across somebody, especially if you stay in the local area that you went to school with, who might have an opportunity for you, or might be the guy that you're working with another agency. So the biggest thing you can get out of college not only is the degree, but it's the networking that you're going to have forever. And I learned that after 23 years in the Marine Corps. I have a network that's global, that I can leverage. I just never really was able to take advantage of that from my college experience because I was the guy that scheduled all my classes on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So I had Friday through Monday to stay at the beach, and that was my college experience.
Sir, that's all the questions that I have. And again, I'm gonna say it again. I appreciate your time, taking the time and the networking and offering the help and the lessons in leadership that you've given both of us today.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, I appreciate it.